This episode contains sensitive content. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Culture Podcast, where we uncover the hidden mechanics of high control groups, their tactics, and their impact. And we speak with the survivors who broke free. My name is Derek, and I'm your host.
My name is Trinity, and I'm also your host. On this podcast, we explore cult life as real people who have lived through the life-changing process of leaving a high control group.
All right. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast, everyone. My name is Derek, and I'm here with Bethany Leger today. A little bit about the author before we begin. She was raised like me and Trent as a Jehovah's Witness. In 2019, she wrote Physically and Mentally Out, Navigating Your Exit from Watchtower. And she just released a new book, which we're going to discuss. She has a BA in psychology from Arizona State University. She graduated summa cum laude. In addition to writing, she's also the creator of the YouTube channel Stop the Shunning. And lastly, she lives in Winston-Salem, North Carolina with her husband, John. Now, this book that she just wrote is called Burning Down the House, Coping with Toxic Family Dynamics, Estrangement, and Rebuilding Your Life. Welcome to the podcast, Bethany.
Thank you so much, Derek. This is awesome.
Yeah.
That you asked me to come on.
Did I get all that stuff right? What did I miss?
You even nailed the last name.
I was wondering about that. I'm glad I got it right. Here's the thing. I think I remember seeing your channel years ago.
Yes.
But I as an XJW, I wasn't one of those people that dove into XJW content. I did a little bit of John Cedars, aka Lloyd Evans, and little things here or there. But part of my own getting out of it process was just to go, to leave, and so I think I remember seeing your stuff years ago. But what really cued me back into you, and we've already talked about this a little bit, is I saw your interview with someone that was in my congregation. And he was an elder in my congregation, and someone had sent me that interview because they also are out and were in that conversation. And that's what re-cued me back into your channel. And so I'm so grateful for that. And so I'm glad to connect with you and have a conversation.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, this should be interesting. So as I talked at the intro a little bit about you and your bio, that's really incredible that you got to graduate and that you got to accomplish that goal. That was something that you talked about a little bit in the book I read. And of course, everything you're doing in this space with your YouTube channel. And I know that you describe yourself as an author, but you just also happen to be someone that, occupies the YouTube space. How's that been going for you?
Yeah. I mean, I like I told you before, I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. I just wanted to, I didn't have any plans for YouTube. It was really just, like you mentioned Lloyd at the beginning. When I was, okay, so I got to back up a little bit. When I was fading, because my husband John and I, XJW Analyzer, we were fading very briefly for about 6 months before we officially disassociated from the organization. And during that time, starting to peak, online. And it wasn't even like, the thing is, we didn't even know that there was a community. We didn't know that there was an XJW community. So that was just mind blowing. I think, honestly, man, I think it was like, I read an article about Arizona, the Jehovah's Witnesses are coming to the Arizona convention center or whatever, for their annual convention. And I was inactive, and I'm like scrolling through the comments. You're in a bad headspace when you're fading. And so I'm scrolling through the comments, and it was like, oh, Jehovah's Witnesses, they ruined my childhood. And there was like all these comments that were really negative. So it wasn't even like, my point is, I wasn't even seeking out, quote, apostate material on the internet. I just happened to stumble upon somebody who I couldn't I couldn't refute what they were saying.
Mhm.
It really hit me in the gut of like, "Oh, crap. Yeah, I agree with this person, and I shouldn't be reading this." And then I fell down the rabbit hole and found YouTube and found Lloyd, and just it was just really inspiring to me. It wasn't just Lloyd. He was a crucial resource, and JT and Lady C.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, especially because like, he looks like an elder. Like,
Yeah,
he looks
yeah,
like
yeah.
he's in, but, like, I was just like, "Wow," they were both very measured and,
Mhm.
um, professional in their presentation, there goes that word.
Mm.
But, they
Yeah,
weren't
there will be some trigger words on this
yeah,
podcast for
yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they weren't, what we were brought up, Derek. We were brought up with the idea of the angry apostate, who's
Yeah.
screaming with the protest sign, outside the convention center. So to see these people and be like, "Oh wow, you know,
Yeah.
you get it." There's incredible sense of validation that washes over you. And I was so inspired by that, kind of circling back around. That's why I was like, "You know what? I think I might wanna, I don't know."
Yeah.
Like, kinda like the back and forth kind of vacillating, and I was like, fuck it," like, I'll put out a video. Like, it was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
put out a video and say my 2 cents and be done. And then it was like, "Huh, I think I have more fire in my belly. I think have more to say." It just kinda hit me all of a sudden like it was a calling.
Yeah, it's and I'm so glad. Like I think that there's room for a lot of different voices in this space. And even just people that have come out of trauma or high control groups or controlling environments with parents or whatnot. I think for me, once you start to hear stories and conversations from people that you resonate with and you go like, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Or oh, this resonates, this makes sense. Ironically, we were talking about before we podcast, like I don't necessarily have a message. I've never gone on and like said like I just want to rant.
Right.
For me, it's like when I thought about personally coming into this space, I want to hear from everyone else. Like I would really want to make sure that they can have their voice heard. Um, and so I just love long form conversation where like you never have to feel like, oh, okay, tell me your life story. You have 10 minutes. Uh, you know, and
Right.
even in an hour or two, like I always say, it's still not enough time. But yeah, I'm really, really glad that you went with it. I think I saw when I was looking at your YouTube channel, you did take a break.
I did. Yeah. Yeah,
And what
and
was
I
the reason behind that?
it was just life, the ebb and flow. There was just some personal stuff going on, and I didn't have the bandwidth. I mean, it's not an exciting answer, but it just didn't
Yeah.
have the bandwidth to keep it up. Um, and yeah, and I just needed to focus on some personal stuff for a while, and
Yeah.
but just and then life, you go back and forth, and sometimes a window of opportunity opens up again. You're like, you know what? I think I'm good. I'm in a good
Yeah.
space now, and I'm ready to say something
Yeah,
again.
it's interesting you say that because I was thinking about with Lloyd Evans. I usually tell people if they reach out to me and maybe don't know about Lloyd Evans, because I've had people just wake up reach out to me, like I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I just go, just start from this is what I enjoy. Just start with Lloyd Evans' first video and go till you don't need to go anymore.
Right, right.
Some people just need to stay in that wheel, and it's great if that's what you need. But it's like be a part of the communities, do what you need to do, listen to these voices until you don't need to. You don't need to feel like you constantly need to, but
Yeah,
and then it works the reverse. Like there may come a time where like with the culture podcast, it's like okay, I've I've put a lot of voices out there and had a lot of conversations out there, and now I'm ready to move on to something else. But for
good.
now, it's this and college. Working towards my goals of being a counselor,
Right.
and just having great people on like you, just really talking it out.
Well, you're doing great work. I mean, giving people the platform to speak up. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. I've often said that the XJW space, you need it. I feel personally it's a necessary pit stop. You don't have to stay at the pit stop. In fact, I don't know, it's just my 2 cents again, go touch grass, get
Hmm.
outside, find something you love to do, find some way to inch your way out of it and move forward.
Yeah.
I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, but, look at different avenues of coping and I don't want to use like therapy speak, but like coping or healing or use a variety of things to help pull yourself out of that dark headspace
Yeah.
and try not to stay. There's so many positive things that come out of it. You need to. I was going to say, don't stay mired in the toxicity.
Yeah.
If you find yourself with a group of people, because we're not in a cult anymore, we don't all have to
Yeah.
agree and be on the same page. So if
Yeah.
it happens to be around some negative energy, like f- don't take the good things and then, don't get sucked into another black hole of darkness. You gotta,
Yeah,
you
it's
know
weird. I think everyone has to navigate their own path, and I think part of that, is like you may need to stay in this space a little longer. But I do agree with you. Like I've said on pod before, um, for me personally, I think there's something about no longer identifying as an ex anything.
Right.
Like if you
Yeah.
get out of something, how long are you going to be an ex that person until you're now you?
Right, right.
It's like if you continue to think about identifying yourself as an ex whatever, I don't know personally how healthy that is long term. But I definitely think there's a space for that where you're like, hey, I'm in this transition. I'm an ex Jehovah's Witness. I'm an ex Mormon. Um, for however long you need. But and there's so many different. It's the longer you're out, you start to realize like, oh, most people go through these phases. Shit, you don't really realize it when you're out, but or when you're first out. But it's like we're all kind of navigating through. Maybe you skip one or two. And maybe unfortunately you never move on. And that's where maybe you need to find someone that you can speak with.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's all I meant, just kind of dovetailing what you just said. It's like, stay in the space if that's where you get support. Because, maybe you don't have family members or friends, close friends that you can fall back on or whatever. And the XJW community is very validating and you're not going crazy.
Yeah.
You have those shared experiences, but just also finding ways to help some sort of healthy coping mechanism, so it's not just staying. You were kicked to the curb but you didn't stay there. How did you move forward basically with your life, like you're saying,
Yeah.
not identifying forever with your pain. That's why I try to poke fun and like have some throw some humor into my channel. you know
Sure.
I'm not a counselor or a therapist. I'm not a trauma informed coach or anything like that. So I just try to, I don't know, just try to make people
Yeah,
laugh.
I think it's good just if people resonate with you. Like as long as you're authentic, like people love it. We and just a whole conversation aside, we're getting into this whole world of algorithms and
Yeah.
just feed the system. And um I think when people stop and go like, what, like, why do I like this? And it's like, 'cause they resonate. They hear your voice. They like the humanity. It's like, dude, I'm not perfect.
Yeah, right.
I'm a human being. Like, maybe I had a hot take here. Maybe I had a rough day at work and I came and I hit record. But either way, it's like, people want to be around people that they're like, dude, I like your humor. I like where you're coming from. You got some darkness to you, and I'm all about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
it came from,
so
came from some dark, weird stuff,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so I just,
Well, I want to, the main reason I wanted to have you on is I did find out that you released this book, and so we're going to chat about that a little bit. But I want to acknowledge that you did write a book years ago, and so I did want to touch on that a little bit, physically and mentally out. I'm curious when you wrote that book. I'd like you to speak on it for. Where were you at in that moment that you decided to take that first trip down writing that book, that lane?
yeah. So I wrote physically and mentally out towards the almost, I think I wrote it right before I took a break from Stop the Shunning. Just writing is in my blood. I just wanted to put pen to paper and uh, give people. something tangible, besides just the channel and these sort of sound bites and, like you say, kind of a hot take or whatever, just my opinion on the internet. But like, here's a little journal, like a coaching journal, basically, because I got my life coaching certification. I kind of did the brick and mortar thing briefly, and it just wasn't right for me. I feel like communicating whatever I have to say, I do it better in writing.
Yeah.
That's why you're going to make a way better counselor. I found out pretty quickly, basically, that like that wasn't the route for me. Um, had good intentions, but anyways. Um, but yeah, and I just I wanted to cover the topic of the PMO, physically and mentally out, because I mean I did it briefly. I was PMO briefly. Um, no, I'm wrong. Scratch that. I was never PMO, because PMO means that you are in the organization going through the motions, but you've checked out because you know it's a cult. You know it's a high control group. I always thought it was, quote, the truth, even though I wasn't happy. If that makes sense.
Mhm.
So once I woke up, I mean, I was inactive for a little bit. Uh, Once I really, this basically, I read the Bite Model by Stephen Hassan.
Yeah.
Behavior, information, thought, emotion control. Once that was actually the thing that woke me up. Like,
Mhm.
it's never. It's a mosaic. There's all these little things that get pieced together, or like a
Yeah.
bunch of pieces of the puzzle. But that was a huge piece that actually woke me up. And once I knew I was in a cult, I came up with a game plan. I drew up a plan, and then John and I decided we were going to disassociate. And I just wanted to tell the PMO, like, if you're not a dependent, if you're not a minor, like, this is not a sustainable dance to live for your parents' approval. So, like, if you're a grown ass adult, you got the money, it's nobody should have to make that trade. No one should say, like, oh, yeah, sure, mom and dad, see ya, like, don't love you anymore. It has nothing to do with that. But it's like, really, are you going to just pretend to be something you're not for the rest of your life? That's not, you deserve better.
Yeah.
You're settling for conditional love. You're playing the game. You're training them that the very behaviors that you're so enraged by and you wish Watchtower would change, and you're so mad and you're so stuck in it. It's like, you're a part of it. You're a part of it by playing the game and living up to your parents' expectations. Again, I can understand if you're in a really tricky spot,
Yeah.
minor or dependent, or there's some sort of mitigating circumstance, but by you staying, what message is that sending to your family? That's, maybe that sounds preachy, but that's how I feel about it. And
Uh,
so
yeah.
I just want to give people a practical, like, not a heavy, dense book, but just something like a little pep talk.
Yeah.
You've seen the book. It looks like a fat brochure. I mean, like, it's not
I
American Psychiatric Association approved. It's just like, hey guys, you deserve better than this. You got to get out.
I'm curious for you, what's the pull because you obviously like me, you have to navigate out, and that's a process for sure. But what's the pull to go, I now want to write this for others?
I wish that I had a book like that for me. Like, I wish somebody had written that for me when I was in the, like, should I, shouldn't I? Like, should I make the leap? Should I make the jump? Because disassociating was, and I talk about it in the book, was terrifying. It wasn't like, okay, I've made this decision and it's just like clean,
Yeah.
a clean break. I haven't seen like, literally never saw my parents again. No
Yeah.
text messages, no phone calls. And I don't say that for pity. It's just that's the severity
Yeah.
of the punishment.
I
And
don't know what's worse, not to interrupt you, and please remember your thought, but I don't know what's worse, never seeing your parents again, and so you can have some finality to it,
right.
or it's on their condition where you get the random text because it's memorial.
No.
Or what it's like, because for me, my father shuns me, and it's
Mm,
on his terms. It's like a year goes by and then he sends a text, and I'm like, what
yeah,
are we doing here?
exactly. And I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Um, yeah. No, no, I've heard that, encouragement texts or memorial texts. Yeah, that we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna play this game. In
It's
fact,
like I disassociated. Like, what is it about? I don't want to follow this anymore. I don't believe in it. Do you not understand? Like, it's really just random. But
right, and a key point of the physically and mentally out book, and then my new one also is setting boundaries, not as this sort of barbed fencing of like, it's my way or the highway, or like you have to do things on my terms. It's just like, hey, this is what I'm willing to put up with. I'm tapped out. I don't have the bandwidth for dot dot dash. If you can meet me halfway and be reasonable, we won't have a problem. But the problem is, you and I both know, Derek,
mhm,
it doesn't work that way in the Jehovah's Witnesses. And so you have to take drastic measures. You have to set just drastic boundaries. And it's not out of revenge. It's not out of hate. It's not all the easy things that they would say it is. You
yeah,
literally just have to protect yourself. It's self
sure.
preservation, or else you will get sucked into a cycle of the encouragement text, memorial text, and it's like
Yeah, for me, the weird cycle with my father is I will set my boundary and I will speak, my mind. I always do it with care.
right,
I never attack because I have the empathy to know that he joined a cult in the 70s and he just
right,
didn't know better. Um, and so I never attack, but I always state my piece and then it's just left red. so so there's never even a dialogue where I can battle, not that I want to, but yeah, that's what I think is really great about your book. And moving on to burning down the house, um, it all makes so much sense to me. I told you before we recorded, it's beautiful. It's a wonderful project.
thank you.
Um, I
I really
think
appreciate that.
I think it's a wonderful blend between a little bit of your memoir, a little bit about you that's sprinkled in there, which I think is really great. But it's a guide. And I think it's for people that get their hands on it, the way I see it, it's definitely, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a guide for someone that's younger. They're kind of still at home. Maybe they have that, like, oh, my parents. But at the same time, you do touch on, maybe you're mentally younger, physically older.
Yeah.
So it is a guide in my mind for someone that's younger. But I just think it's incredible. A lot of space for notes, expression, kind of reflection. As you were starting to dive back in and you wrote the first book, what was the thought process behind, I want to go another round here and I have something else to say and help?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for saying that. It was had somebody ask me, it was like, "Did AI," somebody left a comment, recently, and they were like, "Did AI write your book, or did you use AI to write?" I was like, "Blood, sweat, tears, and you might even find a skid mark." All right, like, heart and soul heart and soul into this book. Um, I just wanted to expand out, to include people who might be in other situations, because the Jehovah's Witnesses, it's so important that we talk about them because I've said this before. I probably sound like a broken record to people who've heard me before say this. We always, when we think of cults, I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, Derek, but people think of Jonestown, they think of
Yeah.
Nexium, they think of the gurus and they have these ideas, these headline grabby cults. It's so easy to laugh at the witnesses because they don't look threatening.
Hmm.
We all blow them off. Oh, the people in the funny suits or the people that stand at the carts. So it's so important that we talk about the witnesses
Yeah.
and raise awareness of that. But also tying back to what you were talking about earlier, you don't want to identify. I at least wanted to bridge that gap between, okay, I came from this, but this
Yeah.
is a microcosm of much larger behavior. There's narcissistic, toxic, and I'm sure you have thoughts and on those terms, on those phrases, but there's other toxic, narcissistic situations where conditional love is being applied. Maybe somebody came from a different church, or maybe they just have, batshit crazy home life. And
Yeah.
also saying about, like younger audience, yeah, absolutely. Someone in their, pushing 40, but like in their 30s or 20s might
Mhm.
be dealing with this. But Derek, the thing is, you'd be surprised. There's people in their 50s and 60s who reach
Yeah.
out to me. I kid you not. That's no bullshit.
Yeah.
People in their 50s and 60s are like, I'm still fighting with my mom. I'm like, how old are you?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
you're,
and that's why I say younger mentally, because you
yeah,
do start to learn, like,
yeah,
you know, when trauma happens, sometimes that's kind of where you stop mentally with your age.
okay,
So it's like, this
yeah,
complex PTSD or something happened, and it's like you just can't break the cycle of your parents, and their own trauma, the cycles, Um,
right. And
when you were talking, it made me think of, I literally, this is like just last week, I had someone at my gym, and this person did not know I was a former Jehovah's Witness. Unprompted. Well, actually, I take it back. Kind of prompted. We were talking about my schooling, and he said, "Well, what do you want to go into, for your practice or for your work?" And as you probably know, is you have a moment where you want to be real, or you just want to be. You'll just want to. We'll get through this conversation. And in that moment, I chose to be real and be authentic. And I told him, "Oh, I would like to work with people in trauma." And I also listed off some other things. And I also said religious abuse.
mm,
And he's like, religious abuse. And so that kind of started a conversation. And he's like, oh, I grew up Catholic. And he kind of talked about his religious abuse there. But here's where it got wild.
okay.
And he, again, doesn't know I'm an ex Jehovah's Witness, but he said, I've been talking with the Jehovah's Witnesses for years.
Interesting.
And he's like, I actually just went to one of their meetings. So he's been having a Bible study with someone, and he kind of starts talking about this. And I'm just like, oh no. And
But
so
inside, you're just like, wow, interesting. Go ahead. Sorry.
and so he proceeded to kind of tell me about his experience, and he was like, and unlike the Catholics, my experience with the Jehovah's Witnesses has just been great. Really great people. I went to their congregation, and everyone was super loving. And I said, have you ever thought that maybe that was love bombing?
Ah, good.
And
Yeah.
he's like that term was foreign to him. And I said, me personally, because I didn't want to get into it, I would look into the Jehovah's Witnesses and just
Yeah.
see what you find. Because I didn't want to say the big C word.
Right, right.
Uh,
That was wise of you not to. Yeah, yeah.
and I said, if this is something you want to go down, just do your research. And so it was just wild that just happened last week.
It's wild. But I think you handled it in a very, you handled it very compassionately. You could have ripped them.
Yeah.
You could have ripped them. I actually have a funny story myself, but because yeah,
Well, go
that is
on. Yeah.
it.
What's your
Oh,
story?
yeah. So I'm gonna tell you an embarrassing story. So I was at a coffee shop. I don't think I've ever told this story before. Maybe I did. I was at a coffee shop. This was probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I was sitting. It had like a really nice backyard patio area, and I'm gonna try to. I'm piecing it in my head. I'm gonna try to get through this quickly. There was a young woman. She was pregnant. She looked like she was around my age. She had a little boy with her. She had a toddler with her, and she was meeting a family, and it was like papa bear, mama bear, baby bear. It was like they were sitting at a picnic bench, and they all had their cell phones out, and they looked like witnesses. I thought they were a witness family, like going to conduct a like an informal Bible study at this coffee shop. And so in my head, I'm thinking that this is a witness family that's trying to prey on this young pregnant woman who, well, I say young, she's like, I mean, probably like 35 or something, like 34, 35. And she has a little boy with her. And yeah, and I see them pull out their cell phones. And so I'm sitting, I mean, it was weird to me. It was funny to me, but I'm sitting in a couple of feet away from them at a different table, and I start panicking because I think, and here's the thing, let me be clear about this. I should have said this in the beginning. anytime I see witnesses at the carts, I leave them alone. I don't do cart crashes. I'm not aggressive with, if you happen to stumble up on my channel on YouTube, that's one thing, but I'm not going to cause problems. You have the
Yeah.
right to, worship in peace. But so I'm sitting at the table behind them, just a couple of feet away, but I start panicking, thinking, I remember when I was a witness, we used to, prey on anyone who seemed vulnerable. Like, oh, this is a young woman with her, her child, she's pregnant, or whatever the situation is. This person just, had a loved one who died. And then how can we help them and kind of ingratiate ourselves? Even if it, you don't, it
Hmm.
sounds sinister, but it's not, we had good intentions, but we don't realize that this is, it's inappropriate. So she's talking to them, and I hear something about the Bible, and I'm just like, "Oh, no." So I kid you not, dude, I took I took a piece of paper, like crappy notebook paper from the bottom of my backpack and scribbled what looked like a ransom note. It was like half cursive, half giant block letters of like, "Don't do it. It's a cult. My name is Bethany Leger. My number is da, da, da. You can call me anytime. They'll ruin." And I think I put "they'll ruin your life" in giant cap letters, and then like, "Don't let them separate you." Like, it was just the ramblings of a wild woman. Like, I put like, "They'll separate you from your child." Just, and by the way, don't tell them that I'm writing this note. It was insanity, because they'll tell you that I'm an evil apostate. Like, I was genuinely like hyperventilating,
You
and
got
I
like everything out all at once, like word
everything
vomit.
at once. It looked insane. It was crazy. It was like the Unabomber wrote it, okay? And then like I folded it up, and I was thinking, how am I going to get it to her? So I pretended. So her son. I'm wrapping this up. Her
It's
son.
okay.
I don't think I ever told this story. Her son was like playing near me and tripped and fell. He started crying. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry if he's bothering you." She comes over to get her son. I was like, "Oh, no, he's fine." I lied through my teeth. I was like, "I'm a new mom too. And, I'm looking for other mothers in the neighborhood to, make friends with." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, sure." I said, "Here's my number." I said, "But, just go talk to your friends." So I was thinking I was going to slip her. So I gave her the note, and she put it into her overalls. She had overalls. She put it in her front pocket. And I was like, "Whew," I wanted to save her from the clutches
Saved
of,
lives.
saving her from the clutches of the witnesses, what I think that's happening. Okay, so she goes back and she sits down, and then they file out. She files out first, and then I see them get up, and they're all wearing pants. And I'm
This
like,
is
"Oh,
the pre-pants adjustment.
pre-pants adjustment." So I'm like, "Oh shit, they're not witnesses." So so I instantly called John. I was like, "I did something insane." I thought I was saving this woman from like the clutches of the witnesses, in my own way, in my own panicked moment, and then realized this poor woman was probably sitting, in her car on her way to Trader Joe's, pulling out this insane letter of
She's
like,
like, I am not gonna call her.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I'm
She's
definitely not calling this mom. She's
what?
insane.
Yeah.
But that should just tell you. Long story short, that should just tell you, like, just maybe it was misguided. I shouldn't have done that, but at the same time, like, my, you know, that's how the reaction was visceral of like, "Oh no, I hope they don't get her."
Well,
Well,
for me,
it-
it shows
yeah,
that obviously you do care,
yeah.
and
Maybe
that
Bible study. Sorry, it was just a Bible study group, or maybe it was. I honestly don't know. That's the thing. It remains a mystery to this day. Sorry.
like I wish he would have texted me. Yeah, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just goes to show you that you did care. You do care. Your activism is your written word. What you're telling me right now is just you got to stop talking to people in the real world. Like it's got to only be through the writing. No, no, I tease, I tease.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to start diving into your book. As I said, I really loved your book.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
How long did it take you to finish it?
5 years.
That
Didn't
was
it?
that was pre AI, so that tracks.
Yeah.
If you started
Yeah.
it 5 years ago,
In 2019 or 20, I think I started at the very end of 2019. It was, I think it was like, yeah, it was December 2019. And then, yeah. And it
What a
just,
labor.
yeah, it really was. And, yeah, and I learned things about myself along the way, and just it was definitely it was completely different than the PMO book, and the Physically and Mentally Out. That one came out in 6 months.
Mm.
And that was a lot, shorter, and, it's hard to pinpoint. It's just certain projects just kinda fly out of you, and this one, took
Now, are
longer.
you are you like so it came out I think in February.
Yeah, February or March, I think, probably, yeah.
Are you already starting to think about the next one or is that too soon?
It's funny you say that. Yeah, I am thinking about another one, but
Mhm. Always the writer.
yeah, you can't. I mean, it's yeah, exactly. It's
You
just
know
one
what
of
you should start
those.
doing? You should start doing a book series where each like initial is like the bite model, you know? So that way you can do a series, you know?
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, yeah,
So the
yeah.
first one starts with B, you know, so on and so forth. Um,
I think people are just gonna get sick of hearing me like talk about, you know, cult stuff. Or I absolutely stand by my work. No regrets. I'm happy I did it. But yeah, and then whatever I can do to, like I said, like you're doing your part,
yeah.
Derek. Everybody has a unique contribution to make.
You know what's really interesting, speaking of AI, I was talking with my partner yesterday, is there's probably going to get to be a point where definitely you, because you're definitely more visual than me online with YouTube. Um, but eventually, like you'll just be able to be replaced with an AI person that looks and talks actually just like you. Like there might even be a moment you could do that and people wouldn't even realize
Yeah,
because
I
there's
mean,
hours upon hours of video footage of you talking.
yep. Oh yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't put it past them.
yeah, so eventually you could just pull the trigger and no one would even know. But we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So let's start talking about the house. Um, so in your book, how do you define the house? Because we're going to burn it down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so the house is just your parents' set of beliefs, the beliefs and values that you were raised with, which I think I get into in the book, that you don't there doesn't necessarily, I'm not calling for a wholesale rejection of everything you've ever been taught. It's not contrarian just for the sake of, disagreeing or being rebellious, but just questioning what you've been raised in. Is it something that you truly believe? Do you still align with it? Did you ever align with it? What parts work for you? What parts don't? Like I mentioned in the introduction, the book is actually pro family. Despite talking about burning down the house, it's just like, hey, basically the foundation is, can we agree to disagree? And if you can't meet me halfway,
Hmm.
you know, if you can't meet me halfway, I'm not asking you to change, but you can't ask me to change. It can't all be just a one-way street. Um, and if that's what we're working with, if I have to change who I fundamentally am to earn your love and respect, just basic dignity and respect, there's no foundation.
Yeah.
Putting that sucker down. And that's what I had to do, because it just, this is not going to work. It can't just be that, I love you, mom and pop, but it can't just be that you talk at my face and tell me how things are going to be.
It's very one-sided.
Very one-sided. And the thing is, give me credit where credit is due. Like I don't care that you're a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
And you and I know that they're very strict the other way around, but I love you regardless. My love for you is unconditional. I don't care if you stay a witness. I'll drive you to the local Panera to meet Sister So and so in service. I'll take you to the Kingdom Hall if you need a ride. It's no
I
skin nose. It's just, but yeah, you can't require that it be all me, that I change to earn your love, because that's not a game I'm willing to play.
yeah. I when I had the pleasure of going to Tokyo, I got the tattoo unconditional.
Oh,
I feel like many people that come through what we've been through, that word really starts to magnify
oh yeah.
because we just have lived a life and we know exactly what it means to have conditional love.
Right.
One of the things that hit me when I was reading your book. You wrote that conformity is like dry rot.
Yeah.
The outside can look fine, but the inside's compromised. What were you thinking about when you wrote that?
My life,
Mm,
because I was a golden child. I made my parents look good. My parents, it's a good question. My parents, they're good people. The organization turned them into something that they're not.
yeah,
They have wonderful qualities, but they're so brainwashed. They've been doing it their entire lives. They but also say brainwashed. They're not stupid.
yeah,
My mom's this spicy chick from Brooklyn who, she's extremely sharp. My father's highly intelligent. And, this gets into, like, cultic mind control and stuff like that, but, my parents did their best. They raised me in what they thought was the right thing to do, but the problem is I'm presenting you with evidence that it's not. I talk about in the book self-destructive tendencies that I had, and it's like, "Hey, your daughter's not well.
yeah,
I'm not asking you to stop being a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not demanding anything from you. In fact, you plucked the organization out of the equation. You guys are great parents. My issue is not with you, it's with the organization and its overreach into our life."
yeah.
And
That's the unfortunate thing about what a lot of people have gone through is
yeah.
it's full of nuance.
Yes.
It's not, for every person that has had a physically abusive partner or
Yeah.
parent, for all those people, there's also people that it's like, no, my parents were actually pretty great.
Right,
They're
right.
just part of a system I didn't want to be a part of.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's like, how many times do I got to shout to the rooftops that I love you, but I don't love the religion you're a part of?
Right.
And that's where I think it's like, us versus them, all or nothing. And it's like, when you only give me two choices,
Yes.
I guess I have to choose nothing.
Right. Yeah,
It's
you're
like,
putting me in
why?
this impossible situation.
Yeah, why are you giving me only two choices? Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So you, for the long time didn't really believe deep down, but
No.
you did get baptized.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I did because it was just when you feel like you have no other option, like this is just it's just all you know. Like, how do I say this? It's just you get used to whatever family dynamics. That's just it. It's so insidious. You get used to whatever family dynamics you're a part of. So if you're just used to receiving, you love your mom, this is how you receive love. You love your father, this is how, it's not that I got baptized because I truly believed in, you know, the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was in, it's hard to explain. Like you said, it's nuanced. I'm
Mhm.
indoctrinated. I believe it's the truth because you're telling me it's the truth from birth. So there's this my intuition, my gut always said something was wrong. That's why I didn't fully believe it. And I wasn't happy. Like to me, that was just a litmus test. It's like if we're supposed to be so happy and the truth is supposed to set you free, you should feel this lightness,
Yeah,
and I felt burdened. I felt like I was being manipulated and brainwashed.
yeah. There's something
And
didn't seem right.
something didn't seem right. You just don't have the language as a
Yeah,
child to articulate all of this. Obviously, we're sitting here now, Derek, and it's like, oh, the red flags are so
sure.
obvious. This is such bullshit, or this is crazy, or we have books and podcasts now. But when you're in that situation, um, and this is just what I do. This is just what we do.
Yeah,
And you know what? I'll say this. Maybe I was just a chicken shit at the time. Excuse the expression, but really, maybe I just was. I had peers that didn't put up with it, you know,
yeah,
that rebelled and left, and they had to deal with the fallout and the consequences. And I think sort of tying back to the dry rot that you're talking about and the conformity and pleasing my parents, I had an older, I speak in past tense like he's dead. He's very much alive, but my older brother, He basically kinda screwed up when he was young, and I don't fault him for any of this, but basically he had a rough time as a teenager, as a lot of teenage guys in the organization do. And, he got reproved and then disfellowshipped and just caused my parents a lot of grief. And I loved him no matter what. I worshiped my brother. I loved my big brother. He was 10 years older than me. And but yeah, but it really did a number on my folks who were considered very solid spiritual pillars. My father is a former Bethelite, Bethelite in the late 60s to early 70s back in Brooklyn. My mother pioneer her whole life, just a good solid witness family, and then you got your firstborn shames you. It's the whole grief cycle. So they didn't verbalize this, Derek, but it was like everything fell on me.
Yeah.
I'm the golden child, so it's sticky, it's nuanced. It's not as simple as, "Oh, I don't like this. I'm not happy. Something feels off. I'm just not going to do it." It's I have to redeem the family image. I have to make sure all is well at home. I don't want to rock the boat and make my mom cry any more than she's already cried, or make my father shame
Yeah.
my father in his position and all that stuff. So there was a lot of expectations placed on my shoulders, and I'm not the only one. There's other
Yeah,
people who
I
do, but
think about a couple things. One, we have very similar parallels. I'm the last of 8 kids, and there was
wow,
definitely pressure. Only my brother and me got baptized, and
okay.
bad track record, for my parents. They did not, uh, out of
Wow,
8.
kids
But I genuinely felt like, "Oh, I need to get baptized for my father." Um,
get it.
I
Mhm.
need to make sure that he can see that he got one right, like my brother and me. And so I understand. I don't believe it's that you're chicken shit. I believe maybe you are with other things, but not for that. I think it's just the pressure of family. You had me thinking too about as I go in college, I'm in an anthropology class, and that's what one of my bachelors is going to be, anthropology, cultural anthropology, and they're talking about this tribe. I believe it's a tribe called the Aka tribe, and the women go out and hunt, and the men stay back. And they actually, if I have this tribe wrong, for all you crazy cultural anthropology people, please forgive me. But the men stay back, and the young children will actually suck on their teat, the men's.
Mm,
Um, and that's just how it is. You,
interesting.
you know what I mean? That's their culture.
Right, right.
And so when you grow up in the culture of being in a cult, that's just how it is. You get baptized. You don't think anything of it. You realize later as you come into your own. But I just find it fascinating. I didn't really believe, but I just like that's all I knew. So here we go. Um,
Very similar. You get it. You kinda get the headspace of, yeah, it's not it
yeah, and then
back
people on the outside of the culture go like, "Well, why the fuck's a guy having the baby on the teat? That doesn't make any sense." And it's the same thing as like, well, why would you get baptized if you didn't believe? It's like you didn't grow up in that culture. You just don't understand. The funny thing about the podcast is you can't spell culture without cult, which
exact
is which is the reason why. And it was brought up on the podcast that I was interviewed on, the Truth That Heals podcast. You also can't spell torture with the last half of culture.
right.
So there's a couple of fun layers to the
Well,
the the,
yeah,
the naming of the podcast. Um, so
well,
back to
yeah.
your book. So you also wrote a line, when do you finally shutter the windows and get the hell out? So what was that moment for you?
Wow. We talk about this in my book, when I tell you my my deep dark secret and you basically say, "Oh, that's too bad, but pray to Jehovah." They weren't hard. I'm not gonna sit here and disparage my folks like they were horrible to me, but it was just like, no, 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 you have to stay in Jehovah's organization. It was like just total blinders, just la 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 la. Like they were in such shock. And as parents, they're good. They're good parents. People might be listening, and this might sound strange to them. I'm not blaming them. It's not. their fault. I just need you to hear me, and you are refusing to hear me.
Yeah.
I'm telling you that I'm suffering. I have this problem. It is no and well, it's now under control because I'm going to a therapist, something that they were, disappointed by. Like, why should a Jehovah's Witness who, has the best life ever, why are they in therapy? And the fact that was my point, basically, to spit it out. My turning point was, you don't get it. You literally don't. I thought maybe, like naively, I thought this would be it.
Yeah.
This would be the thing. Like, it's not just that I'm fading. It's not just that I'm, quote, discouraged. No, 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 no. Your daughter is coping with her cognitive dissonance and her pain in an extremely unhealthy way. And you literally don't care about her taking whatever steps she needs to do, like stepping away from the organization, not being a witness. Like, I asked him, would you still love me? Like, and it's not to put an ultimatum. It's just like, are you serious? Like, I'm pouring my heart out to you. This is a very dark thing I've kept from you for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And of course they were grief stricken, but, comma, stay in Jehovah's, or like, that was the moment of like, I can't do this.
Can't
I
do this anymore.
literally can't do this anymore. So I'm sorry if that was a
No,
uh
that was the answer, and I'm really appreciative to you to talk about that. So it goes back to another one of those things where anyone that's listening, it's like, no, other people have been through what you've been through, and it's because
right,
you chose to talk about it, and that's what I think is really powerful. Um, when you look back now and you think about the conversation you were hoping to have with your parents, when you look back now, do you realize why they couldn't give you the response you were hoping for?
my my mother, yeah, that's so layered. Like,
Yeah.
why they couldn't give me what I was looking for. My parents' entire identity is wrapped up in being Jehovah's Witnesses. My I don't wanna air their laundry and their past and their stuff. I obviously, I'm on the internet and I talk about my folks and how I'm shunned, but, they have their reasons for clinging on to the organization and clinging to their identity as Jehovah's Witnesses. Um, and that was just, I've talked about the sunk cost fallacy. It's just, it means more to them. I'm not saying they don't love me. That's too easy. That's one of those easy answers of just like, oh, Bethany's on the internet just because she's hateful. Oh, come on. It's not that simple. Like, talking about the shunning policy and has nothing to do with hate. That's just an easy answer to shut down any kind of critical conversation. Um, but my folks, it's like, yeah, that their whole life and identity is wrapped up in being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. They just can't allow themselves to go there mentally. They're just, yeah, they're too. That would be too scary for them.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
where I think of is I've gotten enough distance from it for myself personally where I go like I can't look to them for the answer I need because they're not able to give it.
right.
They literally don't have the mental capability to do so because of the cult that they grew up in.
But we hope, you
But
know
we
that
do hope.
that's just it. Because I agree with you. What you just said, I agree with you 100%. They're not able to, but I think that really is the juncture that each PMO has to hit. Like,
Mhm.
what's your line? Like, for me, this was my line of like, "Hey, I'm not doing well. Your daughter is not well. And you can't. I'm not mad at you. I'm hurt, but I love you and I'm not mad at you. I understand you can't help me, but that means I'm going to have to do something to protect myself."
Yeah.
So, and I talked about this in my book too about like, what if you gave yourself closure? Because if you're looking for closure from your folks, you're going to be waiting for a long time, if ever, you know.
Yeah, I have a parallel, story with my own father. My mom has passed away, so that's why she's not brought up. She died of cancer when I was very young, and that was one of the reasons I held on to the belief that I would see her again in the paradise for
Yeah.
as long as I did. Um, but I told my father that I was struggling. I was on Lexapro,
Mm.
And I had a heart to heart with him, and he was just like, "Huh, okay,"
Right.
and then change topic.
They can't, yeah, they
They can't
maintain
do it.
they can't do it, no.
I've come to learn now that it's like, I'm sure you've heard of Plato's cave,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like that's all they know is out in the cave. They don't even have the ability to look outside the cave and go, "Oh, well, I understand what you're saying, and here's some resources, and let's talk this out." It's like inside the cave, there's no such thing as Lexapro.
Right. Right, exactly.
So it's like,
Exactly.
what do we do here? Well, let's just change topics.
Yeah.
And so for anyone that doesn't understand that, please look it up. I think that was something that was really helpful for me through my wake up process. Is just kind of, I really like philosophy as well.
No, that's an
So
excellent example, yeah.
yeah,
Something
um,
happened to you that and it's, it's just it's not natural. It's not natural to go to your folks and, anyways.
well, this
Wha
is something you touch on in your book. Is you touch on the idea that family is safe harbor,
Right,
um,
right.
and I think the reality is in a maybe a different structure. I don't want to say perfect structure or alternate, whatever, but not in a high control group structure. Um, I think that could be the case. I don't personally know because I've never had it. But
Right.
can you talk a little bit about that concept of family being a safe harbor and how you feel about that and navigate through that?
Yeah, I mean, like, because when I was writing the book, I was thinking, some people are gonna hear, like, a toxic relationship, narcissist this has become, like, part of our everyday vocabulary or
Hmm.
lexicon, you know, "Oh, he's toxic," or "She's narcissistic," or whatever, but I'm thinking it, like, in terms of what we came from, like, people will use it in terms of, like, my toxic boyfriend or narcissistic mother, and, I'm just applying it to family, that's difficult 'cause, that's your blood, and so, yeah, I think I'd mentioned something about, like, intimate partner relationships, but there's just this idea that is pushed in our culture just at large that you can always turn to family. Blood is thicker than water. um the sanctity of family is just reinforced, but that's such, again, like you said, that's such a foreign concept for us coming from a high control group, or a
Yeah.
cult. And so that's kind of part of the bridging the gap, with this book, is going from, the Pimo book to this one, is like, hey, you may not have come from a Jehovah's Witness family, but, maybe you're coming to terms with the fact that your family is not the safe harbor
Hmm.
that you
Yeah,
thought it
I have
was.
this equation of like there's a couple things. Like there's a bunch of pillars that are kind of holding you up, and it's
Yeah,
like how many of these slowly start to fall,
right.
before you no longer can hold up that reality that you grew up in, that safe harbor that you thought it was. And then it's
Right.
also like, dude, if like all you ever knew was hugging on roses, you would just be like, well, all flowers have spikes on them, you know?
Right. Right.
That's just all we're used to. Like, I mean, you got to take it's a beautiful rose, but it just comes with the pain.
Yes, exactly. And it's we don't want to believe, that our family, our parents, and I have my situation. There's people who had the shit absolutely beat out of them. Their parents were horribly physically abusive, have come from horrible family situations. Um, but the scary part is, what if you're in a situation, talking about the safe harbor, you think it's a safe space, but something feels off. You don't feel accepted for who you are. You feel like the goalpost is always being moved. You feel like mom's kind of screwing with your head, or dad's always making these little jabs and comments, and because you love your parents, you let it go, or you keep putting up with it. We It's that sad moment. It's like like, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, or like the stages of denial. We don't want to believe that our family is not that safe harbor. Like, who would sometimes the manipulation, what I'm trying to say is sometimes the manipulation is subtle enough that you don't even realize you're in an abusive relationship.
Mhm.
We think of intimate partner relationships with toxic, narcissistic, abusive, but when it's mom and dad, we don't want to go there. Just like,
There's something in our DNA that we're we're programmed to go back to them. Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, it's like they're supposed to be programmed to care for us and love us. It's a combination.
right.
And so when that happens, the programming is like, I don't know what to do about this because they're supposed to be loving me and want to protect me. And it's again complicated and nuanced because they believe they are.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and that's basically, yes. What I was thinking of is, with anybody who's a PMO or former Jehovah's Witness, who might be reading it, just I know you want to believe your relationship is built on love. I know you want to believe things are a certain way, but the fact that they are presenting this threat of shunning, the fact that they are willing to give you up for the organization and follow the shunning practice, that's a hard pill to swallow,
Yeah.
to realize that your family is not the
Well,
suburb that you thought it was.
and I bring it up. I call it the God equation. I'm never gonna win that equation because God brings everlasting life.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So if I'm looking at this and I zoom out more, if they truly believe that God is going to bring them everlasting life and fix their generational trauma from their parents,
Yes.
and that's the answer that they've tripled down on their whole lives. And then I come up and I go like, well, I don't believe, and it's like I'm not going to win that equation. Like I can't promise them sayings of everlasting life like Jesus Christ does. Um,
Right.
so I just have to, me personally, like I have to give them grace and go like, I get it, I understand. It's like,
Well, and that's, I think that's what I was alluding to earlier, is that without getting too detailed, my parents have their stuff with their parents, and that runs deep, and the organization provided them solutions or answers
mhm,
that they're clinging to. They need it, and to rip that away from them, that's just it. I'm
yeah,
not trying to. I'm not
yeah,
trying to take away your hope, or whatever you're looking forward to. Paradise. My mom wants to see her father again in the resurrection. She was very close to him, and because her side of the family, um, my dad's side of the family. Sorry, it's a little sidebar. My dad's side of the family are all witnesses, but my mom's side of the family, she was one of 7 kids, and only she, her sister in Germany, and her father, who was the presiding overseer, stayed witnesses. And so I just have tons of aunts and uncles and cousins who are not witnesses. So I had that reference point growing up. Um, but I also saw a lot of why my mother is the way she is, and why she stuck to the quote truth. It's
yeah,
because her father, who she was very close to and loved very much, there's that emotional connection or bond. I get it.
yeah. And
I
and it's the constant programming. So
Yeah.
when they went away with that third meeting, I was kind of shocked. I didn't, because it's like you really
Right.
need to get the Tuesday, and then I'm starting to kind of think my own thoughts, and then
Right.
Thursday,
Right. Right. Right.
okay, and then okay, we got to do Saturday service, and then Sunday, and so the moment I mean, we've seen this and we've heard about this, people that have reached out or whatnot. It's like, why would they all of a sudden reach out to me now? And then you go like, oh, well, the Watchtower on Sunday had an article about reaching out to your
Wow.
loved ones,
Yes.
and so, so it's
Yes.
like you just go, it's the programming. Like they can't
Programming.
fight it.
In fact, I'm glad that you brought that up, Derek, because it kind of just tying into what you were mentioning earlier. You had brought up a point about, like, when did I know, or what was the line, or shutter the windows and get the hell out. In the beginning of my fading process, when I knew something was wrong, this wasn't even the point of like, "Oh shit, I'm in a cult." Like, that moment hadn't even hit me yet. It was just I stopped going to meetings. John and I stopped going to meetings. My mother, sent me a text. We te and I let me be clear, John and I were living in North Carolina, my parents were in Texas, so this wasn't a situation where they would just drop by, you know?
Mhm.
It's not like they're a car ride away. So, I spoke with my parents. I was very close to my folks. We spoke, no exaggeration, 2 to 3 times a day, just hopping on the phone. Um, and, so it was very common for them to text me, but I remember the day, dude, talking about what you were saying with the programming and like, okay, well, now it's Tuesday meeting's over. No, and I got this article, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna reach out to my, inactive son or daughter and encourage them to come to the memorial. It reminded me of this. Yeah, she started to text me encouragement texts, and it just took one time. She sent me a message, and she said, because I think my mother has the intuition like the nose of a bloodhound. I think she just could sense something was off,
Yeah.
even though she didn't even
Across states.
yeah, across states, really. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, she knew something was off just in our conversations, and she knew that I had become inactive. And to her credit, she didn't flip out. She didn't flip out. She didn't condemn me or anything, because she'd gone through this with my brother. This was familiar territory. But I knew in my gut I was not going back. And she sent me a text one morning, and she says, "Hey, honey, your father and I are here sitting, drinking coffee, our morning coffee, and reading the text. And, the meeting last night was so encouraging. It was talking about, if your child, hasn't been to the meetings in a while, something that you can, just sending it, trying to just text me some encouragement, spiel."
Yeah.
And I just cut her off at the knees. I cut her off at the knees. I didn't play the game because I knew in my gut I was never going back.
Mm.
So that was kind of the first. I gotta say, that was actually one of the first actions I took. I actually said in the text, I wasn't harsh, but I said, "Please don't do this. I need a
Mm.
mother." I said, "Please don't do this. I need a mother, not a Bible teacher."
Wow.
I didn't say, "Don't call me," I didn't flip
Yeah.
out or anything. I just said, "Please don't do this." Like, I know
That's
I know
actually great. Like you're like, I want a mother.
yeah.
Like, I don't
And
want you out of my life.
yes, and I know what you're doing. I know what you're and I know what
Well,
you're doing, I know you can't help yourself, but please don't do this. And when I say this, I meant specifically this act
yeah.
of, like, I can tell your indoctrination is kicking in, and I know that you're doing what you think is right and what you feel you need to do as a mother, but this is not what I need. It's like somebody saying, "Hey, can I do anything for you?" And then you do something, it's like, "I appreciate the thought, man, but, like,
Yeah.
I don't, I'm vegan. I'm not gonna eat all these enchiladas or whatever, like, or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, you
Well, it makes me think too, like once their programming doesn't align with your new programming, that's
yeah,
also starts to be like on their side, they're like, oh, what's going on here? Um, I'm not used to this response from my daughter.
right, right.
I don't even know how to react. Is this, they only have the black and the white. So is she for us or against us? What's going on here?
Yeah,
So that also no doubt was a challenging thing for your parents to deal with. I'd be curious to have that be in the room for what that conversation was after the text. Um, do you
yeah.
know?
No, and I have no idea. And I was obviously, like I said, I was respectful. I wasn't harsh, but I knew I had to be firm. I knew I had to start taking radical change,
Well,
making
you
radical
you
changes.
you talk about radical. That was something I wanted to ask you. Could you touch on your thoughts of radical acceptance? That was something that you had in the book.
Yeah, I mean, like, um, just there's yeah. So, like, there's so much literature out there, and therapists, obviously, who are encouraging reconciliation between estranged family members. And hell, if it can be achieved, great. I'm all for it. I talk about that in the book, that I totally respect that viewpoint. And how can we mend these fences? That would be great. That's healthy and wonderful. I hope that happens. But there's some contexts where that's just not going to happen. And, you can torture yourself over it, or just, practice that radical acceptance of it is what it is.
Yeah.
I can't change this. They are who they are. Um, I don't have to like it, but I can't torture myself. I have to move on for my own sanity.
Hmm.
And so literally that's what I did. It was like an out of that's why I'm not a let me be clear, I'm not a therapist. So a therapist or a counselor is going to have different you're going to have different insights that you're going to give your patients, and this is just how I handled it is what I'm trying to say. Disclaimer. When I knew I was going to disassociate, it was like I had an out of body experience. It was the most I felt like I was zigzagged in half. Like life, it didn't feel real. I was like, I can't, I cried in the fetal position, like a chicken shit. I cried. Okay. I cried like a lunatic. And yet I knew this is what I have to do. Some people won't agree, and that's fine because for whatever reason, their family dynamics are a certain way, or they want to handle things a certain way, meaning they don't feel the need to disassociate. That's fine. Um, but for me, I knew I had to do that to send a message, and because I didn't want to be known as a Jehovah's Witness. This is
Yeah.
just to me, it was a return to sender moment. So part of that radical acceptance was just chopping off the limb, burning down the house. In fact,
Yeah.
that's where it came from. Literally, my disassociation moment was where burning down the house was born. It wasn't like in that moment as I'm crying and writing my disassociation letter that I'm going, I'm going to write a book in a year, or however many years it was since 2 or 3 years later. But that's what it felt like. It literally felt like in that moment, that was the image that came to mind. I felt like I saw a burning house.
Mm.
So everybody thinks it's an
What a
ode
moment.
to heads, but like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
which
mean, it
hey,
is catchy.
yeah, it is. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, what a powerful moment though. You're
But that's what
writing
it
you're
felt
writing your
like.
letter, you're crying. What a release.
Yeah,
Um, I often talk about like sit with those emotions, anger, sadness, whatever it is. Try not to linger, but
right,
but don't deny it. I also disassociated,
right.
and it was very intentional for me. It took me over a year of being PMO and trying to wake up my partner unsuccessfully.
Okay.
And then also blowing it up, like burning everything down. Um, I
Yeah,
didn't give them the meeting they wanted. I just said I'm gone.
yeah.
I intentionally also didn't say a lot to my father. I didn't want to wake him up. He's in his mid 70s. Um, I don't know, in my opinion, gosh, I would not want to wake up at 76.
Oh God, no, no. And I mentioned that. Yeah, your brain would explode.
Like, really? Like, no. So I intentionally didn't wake him up, and I left. I think the nice thing about doing it that way, for me personally,
Yeah,
is people come to me now as a resource. They're like,
yeah,
"Hey, you blew it up. I know without a doubt that you left." And when they wake up years later, they reach out to me, and so I'm so grateful for that.
good.
Instead of like the fading, which, hey, I get it. If you got to fade, you got to fade. You got to do what's right for you and your family.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, that exactly, the blowing it up or the burning it down, that was I didn't know any other way to go. That was I talk about this in the Pimo book also, that you should do whatever is empowering for you. So if it's empowering for you to not give them the satisfaction of a letter and walking away and just moving on, like, hey, this is all bullshit. I'm not going to dignify this with a letter. That's how you view it. And that empowers you and makes you feel good to move forward. Cool, man, do it.
yeah,
For me, this is what I needed to do because if you grow up as the golden child, that those kinds of vibes in your house, or that's what was expected of you, you will absolutely second guess yourself. And that's what I didn't want to fall into.
yeah,
I knew I'm not going back. So I'm not gonna torture myself with a game of, "Oh, no, am I doing the right
Yeah.
thing?" Like, no, like,
Like
I
you've
just
committed.
I committed. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it was easy. I
No.
think that's the misconception and the distinction that gets lost. That's why I talk about radical acceptance. This wasn't like, "You know what? I gave it some, I was like, no, once the switch went off, I was like, "Oh, no, I can't unsee this. I can't go back." And why am I going to, like, get this is, again, me personally. I thought to myself, "I'm not gonna give my parents like my brother did." My brother eventually went back, by the way,
Mm,
sidebar, and that's his life. But I thought, I don't wanna give my parents another 20 years of false hope, because that's what it was for my brother. 20 years, man, they worked on
right.
him. They worked on him, and it worked, and he went back, and that's his life and his story, and I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what's going through his mind and his heart.
Yeah.
But I thought, I am not playing this game.
And
I
he's
know
your
it.
older brother, right?
Yeah, my older brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he'll be 50 pretty soon. But yeah, and but I literally, basically, as the golden child, as the one 10 years behind, it's like, look, I know this game. I'm a witness. I was a witness for so long. I know the tactics. I know the strategies. I know it's coming from a good place, but you can't fool me on this one. You can't pull this on me. I made you.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like
Well,
all those.
I often tease like we are taught to be witnesses. We're witnessing what's going on. I'm
Right,
watching.
right,
Uh,
right.
so now I'm taking action. So
Exactly.
what was that navigation from your wake up, your blow up, to getting away from it, to, I guess, starting your YouTube channel? Like, what was that? You have
Wow.
5 minutes. No.
But yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I disassociated. John and I both disassociated. We call it our freedomversary. It was, uh,
Nice.
it was New Year's Eve 2017. So basically, we rang in 2018, wild and free. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then I think it was November 2018 that I started my YouTube channel. And just like I was talking about in the beginning, I was just really inspired. It wasn't a calculated, "I'm gonna start a channel" moment. It was literally just like, "Damn,
Yeah.
this organization literally drove me to madness." Like, I want my say. So it
Sure.
was like, I'm just gonna put out a video. Um,
Well, so, like,
and
but
yeah,
when you leave, and, you were grateful to leave with a partner, but,
right.
when you leave, like, what is that navigation? Like,
Yeah,
what does that look like for you? I'm very curious about what the actual, like, it's one thing to leave, but the
right.
navigation out, and then to get to a point where you're like, "Okay, now I can
Yeah,
start this channel, and then now I can write these books." What is that gap?
yeah. Well, for I can't speak for other people. Everybody's situation and like you said, their support system is different. Maybe they have no support, and everybody's threshold for, like, their own personal resilience and how they bounce back. For me, it was like, I think I heard a cult expert. I don't remember if it was Jean Lalich or someone at some point said, like, you should take time. Don't rush into any kind of activism or speaking
Mhm.
up or something like that. And like I said, I respect these viewpoints, and I'm not saying that there isn't some validity to it, but for me, the navigating it was being part of the XJW community. Um, it helped wake me up. Like, I knew it was a cult, like, objectively, from the Bite model. Um, like, that was completely solidified in my mind, had no doubt about that. It wasn't that I was swayed, by apostates, emotionally swayed by apostates. Um, but yeah, so finding the XJW community, I was so inspired by that. It was my navigation.
Mm.
It was how I muscled through that very weird time. This is probably going to sound screwed up. I wish things were different with my parents. I love my parents. I cried like a little bitch, okay? I cried. Sorry, not sorry, but I cried in the fetal position when I knew I was going to disassociate because of the implications. It was so overwhelming. I was absolutely emotionally overwhelmed at because I knew what it meant. It was the kiss of death. I wasn't going to see
Yeah.
my parents again. But there's so many thoughts going through my head. I love my parents, but I didn't shed a tear for them, is what I'm trying to say. And I know that might sound weird. Never seeing your parents again, it's a traumatic break. It was traumatic, but the way I dealt with it or responded to that grief, I didn't shed a tear. I cried.
That's
Yeah,
the thing is there are moments forward, there are moments backwards. There are
yeah.
moments forwards, there are moments backwards. There's moments you're upwards and you're feeling good, and there's down moments. That's life.
Exactly. Exactly.
Even if you weren't part of a cult or a high control group, that's life. Life is hard. Um, how was your partner through this process, John?
Yeah, yeah, so I'm sorry, there's so many things going through my head. Basically,
Well, this is a big moment. That's why I wanted to ask. Like the time frame between leaving and reestablishing is huge.
yeah, sorry if I'm like, huh, like I'm just like trying to like piece the timeline together for you. So this is not me. It's not meant to be a dramatic pregnant pause. Um, Basically, finding the XJW community was a lifeline. Speaking up, I don't regret it in the slightest because that's what I'm saying. I forgot who it was, but the cult expert was saying, I really don't think you should, not, didn't say this to me personally, but I'd heard them say, like, you shouldn't be an activist right away. And I can understand there's some validity to that because you're coming fresh out of something, you're not an expert or whatever, but I wasn't posing as an expert I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to be an expert. I'm just saying, hey, this organization silenced me and totally screwed my head up. And damn, it feels good to speak up. And
Yeah.
my parents are shunning me like I'm dead anyway. So, like, I got nothing to lose. What are you going to
Yeah.
do? Shun me? Like,
Yeah, it's like we've
you
already
know,
lost so much. How much more can we lose?
exactly. So, for me, it was incredibly empowering. That's how I navigated it. I think if I had stayed quiet, and it might look different for someone else, had I stayed quiet, I would have been in a torturously dark headspace. But
Mm,
I needed to feel empowered, and I stand by that, don't regret it at all.
yeah.
Helped a lot of people, it helped me get through it. Um, and then, like you said, life is a roller coaster, you have these ups and downs, and I had a down, and I needed to be away from that for a while, but it wasn't, in response to anything that had happened. I think, people get so mired in this little, like, microcosm, this little community. "Ooh, what happened?" It's like, it's just life, just I had shit going on.
Oh, I think that's fair. Even with this podcast, this comes out every couple weeks.
Yeah,
And there are moments where I'm thankful it does. If this was a weekly podcast, or even more, there are times with my life and schedule, it's like this is challenging. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, we're human. Like we got stuff going on. Like so, I think it's totally fair and totally understandable. And it doesn't have to be anything outlandish. Just life, dude. Life gets in the way. We
Yeah,
gotta we gotta figure this
exactly.
shit out.
You
Um,
nailed it. That's really just what it was. Yeah, but John, it's funny you asked that about how did he handle it. John was the true believer,
mm,
like, to his core. So when he, quote, woke up and learned about the CSA cases, learned about all the things we know,
yeah.
and realized it wasn't the truth, he was truly shattered.
Mm,
Like, in every respect, was really messed up about it. And it's funny, not haha funny, but he was flipping out. So he's like, "Did you know about this? Did you know about this?" And he was bringing me all this research. So he kind of woke up prior,
mm,
like we were pretty close in the waking up process, but he woke up slightly before me. And so he was a little bit ahead of me, but he was digging into all these things, researching and being like, "Did you know about this and that?" And I was the one who was not the true through and through believer, who always knew something was off, that was like, I don't want to, I can't handle this. Like, the implications of what this means, I can't. I don't have the bandwidth for it. I don't have the fortitude to
Yeah.
withstand whatever you're about to tell me. It's like, when we talk about our parents, like they just can't process it. It's just funny that he was the one who was really into it, and then he came out furious
Mm.
he was finding, and he was trying to present it to me, and I was like, "Would you shut up already? Like, I don't wanna know."
Well, that's an
And
interesting layer to it because,
yeah,
we talk about agency and we talk about um, everyone's own unique individual wake up moment. And there
yeah,
is a level of, I don't know what the word is, but awareness that we don't yet have at the time of like, even if a partner wakes up before the other partner, it can kind of be a little like, you're not giving me space to wake up in my own time.
yeah.
Because you're so angry or excited about this new information that it's kind of an attack to my stability.
It's
Where I find that to be really fascinating. My experience was I was kind of on my own, but I've heard other stories of people that have woken up with their partner, and it's like it's great, but at the same time, there's more of this like this cocktail of thoughts about like, gosh, like you kind of push the issue, maybe in your own kind of anger or awareness. How was that for you with that? You said it was too much.
I was so overwhelmed. I was borderline pissed at him. Like, "I love you, but please stop. You're pissing me off."
Yeah.
But really, it was because I was afraid it was gonna confirm my suspicions.
Mm,
I believe is the issue ironically, I believe is the issue with my mother and my f I mean, that's speculation, but that's what I think it is with my parents. They're not stupid. They may be in their 70s, they may have been in this their whole lives, but I don't think they shun me because they think I'm actually evil.
yeah.
They're doing what they gotta do because if they know, it's like that it's that Matrix moment, red pill, blue
Yeah.
pill moment. So I get it, which
Or
is why
maybe you are the mouthpiece of the devil.
yeah, exactly.
It's possible.
Exactly. It's
It could
possible.
be it
Yeah.
could be a major fear of theirs that they
Yeah, quite
genuinely
possibly.
truly believe that you've been taken. I
Oh,
look back on
absolutely.
some of the stuff that I say out loud, and I'm
Uh-huh,
like, "We told people that at the door." And
uh-huh.
you have to go like, gosh, when they closed that door, they were like, "What the fuck are they talking about? We
Yeah,
wanna,
yeah.
like, play with dolphins and tigers out in the new" what do they call it? The new system? Uh,
The new order back in the '80s and '90s or whatever it was, the
yeah,
new order.
and, I give everyone grace if you truly believe in Christianity, that if that's what gives you, hope and comfort
Right,
and a
right.
path in life, great. But at the same time, you hear some of this stuff and you're just like, in my humble opinion, this sounds like a fairy tale. Like,
You know
uh
yeah.
yeah, go
What's
ahead.
funny? I gotta tell you something funny, sorry. I interrupted you. Sidebar. I remember being, like, 9 years old. You're gonna appreciate this because you and I are close in age. I was, like, 9 years old, and we were driving home from a theocratic ministry school. It was a Thursday night meeting, and my mother goes she says "Honey," because she's from Brooklyn, she's got this thick accent. She's like, "Honey, they gotta babe, they gotta stop saying the society. It makes us sound like a cult."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
as a kid, I didn't even know what that meant. Like, I didn't
Sure.
know what the implications of what a cult was. But I knew, oh, a cult, that's like a weird, creepy group, right? Like,
And lo and behold, they make the change years later.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, "You might have been onto
Like
something, ma."
like 20
No.
years later, they have a meeting, the governing body sits down and goes, "We gotta change this name." I remember
Yeah,
when that change happened, I was like,
right,
"Why?" I Okay, like, you guys have always called it this. It's just weird little changes like that that you start to go
right,
like, that goes like you go like, "Do they know?" Because
right,
if they have a level of awareness and metacognition, they'd make that change.
right.
Like,
Why
so,
would why would you change it if you didn't think something was possibly wrong with it?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's like, I don't know, some of these decision makers there, we'll never know, or maybe we will. Maybe there'll be another governing body member that writes a book, but
yeah. Oh,
interesting.
wouldn't that be great?
Oh, it'd be amazing.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be? I think we're due. We're long overdue.
We're due for another one. I think it's gonna be one of these new 40 somethings that is somehow,
Yeah.
um, gonna be in heaven. Um, okay, so
Anyways,
you navigate out, you start the YouTube channel, which I think is great. You write these books.
sorry, I don't know if I fully answered your question.
I think you did.
It's
I think you did.
okay. But yeah, I mean, it was a huge part of my, na becoming part of the being proactive is what I wanna say. Definitely being proactive, and some people, they're navigating out of that and finding their footing is, "Dude, don't call me. Shades are drawn.
Yeah.
I don't wanna exist. I'm falling off the grid." And I
One of the
totally respect that. I totally
Yeah.
get it. For me, it was the opposite. It was like, "You know what? I was the good girl, golden child, did everything that was expected of me, and sure, you mofos, like, you confirmed my suspicions. You are
Yeah.
everything I thought you were, and now I'm just gonna say what I always knew to be true." Like, it was a vindication moment, not against my parents.
Mhm.
That's the key point. This wasn't an "F you, mom and pop, I'm getting
Yeah.
on the internet." This was, "Oh, hell no." Like, you
Yeah.
you're gonna treat
Yeah,
me
and
like
then no doubt some
yeah,
sadness, It's like,
yeah. You want
gosh, there's
people
just nothing I can do.
you want me to
Um,
crawl away in shame under a rock. That's what they're hoping for. They're hoping that you're gonna be so embarrassed and ashamed that you're just gonna go away.
well, and that's why I think it's important. I did a post about this a little bit ago, like, I think it's ultra important that everyone sees us thriving.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
you have to show that, like, when you make it out, the devil hasn't got you. That
Right.
like, yes, life is full of complications and problems and stress, and there are sad moments, but it's like the ultimate, like, equation, in my opinion, of everything equals out to, like, I'm doing great.
Bingo, bingo. Yeah, I agree with that because closely tying in with that, it really, really bothered me. I really resented this whole idea that we're happier because we know the truth.
Mhm.
We're happier because we're Jehovah's people. And I'm thinking, don't tell me how I feel. I've talked about this even in recent videos. So just that the act of speaking is so cliche, and I know this is like a buzzword right now or a buzz phrase, my truth, but like
Mhm.
being authentic and just saying like, "No, I wasn't happy." And this was something that was forced on me. Being
Yeah,
able to speak up and just be like, "No, I wasn't happy as a witness." We weren't any better as witnesses. We still had I would have respected my parents more and really cherished this about them. I'm not looking for perfection. I don't care that you have your problems and your quirks and we have our issues as a family. It's the fact that you're not acknowledging it. It's
yeah.
the
Well,
denial.
and it only gives them fuel to the parable that we go out, as the prodigal son and party and drink
Yes.
and debauchery and
Yeah.
we do all these things and then, we scurry back home with the tail
Yep.
between our legs because, you guys were right. Like it's like, no, like go out there and live a beautiful, wonderful life and show them, even though you're not going to actively do it. Obviously, you're not like sending them messages like, "Hey, I'm living life," but like, if they see it, however, through friends of friends or whatever, and they just go like, "They're actually doing great." It changes the narrative. It makes, in my opinion, it makes them go like, "Huh, like the devil didn't get them."
That's
What's
actually part of why I wanted to sorry, just to add
Yeah,
to your thought, that's actually why I wanted a big motivation behind why I did the YouTube channel.
yeah, that's great.
So it actually has nothing to do with my folks. That's the biggest misconception, is that you want some sort of vindication or revenge or you just want to bitch and rant. It's like, no, 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 no. Like, I always had a bad feeling about this organization. I'm going to use my voice now. You silenced me long enough. But then also it's like, you know, oh, look, 10 years later, whatever, like, oh, she's not. And they, of course, I can't speak for them because I'm not a mind reader. We haven't had any communication. I'm sure they're disgusted, appalled. This is just just absolute shock that their golden child, good Jehovah's Witness daughter became an apostate and she's on the internet. But also, it's like, I'm not afraid of you.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of this organization. I'm not afraid of what of the gossip that's gonna come up, about me in the all the things that worked in witness world. This is the real world, bitch. And I'm not talking about my mom, but like, this is the real
Yeah.
world. I don't, those things, those tactics that would shame a witness and keep them quiet that stuff doesn't work in the real world, man. Like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't care
and
what,
I
yeah,
think another layer to it is don't prove them right by going down a destructive path just because you can.
right. Bingo.
You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
okay, you want to
Exactly what you're saying.
party and try drugs and have sex with whoever you want. Don't go so deep down that deep end that you can't recover, because then you're just like, you are
Play.
the person in the parable.
Right.
So that's another layer to it that I try to be very aware of. And I also try to be really mindful that there are people at any different phase of the wake up process watching this.
Right.
And so I try to be very, very mindful of, like, this is the first video that you're watching. Number one, wow.
Right.
Number two, like, it's going to be okay. We're good.
Yeah.
We've dabbled with the world.
Yeah.
There's some toughness out there, but it's beautiful and wonderful at the same time, and terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Well,
okay to have it all.
exactly.
Now you talked about part of this process. You talked about this in your book, is having that tough conversation, because again, your book is a wonderful guide. There's parts in it that you intentionally ask questions for the reader. Take these notes, put your thoughts out there. I think it's wonderfully composed with that in mind. But you talk about the moment of, okay, now you've gotten to this point and you need to set a boundary and talk with your mom and dad. Um, can you walk me through that part of the book? Just like, here's an intentional thing. It's going to be challenging. You're going to stand up to your father. You're going to talk back to your mom.
Right.
Um, can you talk to me a little bit about that part?
Yeah. Um, the problem with the Pimo situation, a lot of, and again, I don't mean this to sound preachy or insensitive, like I don't understand what you're going through because I was once in your position, but it's not just going to go away unless you take that radical step of having that conversation or laying that first boundary. It's going to be uncomfortable. The relationship that you think you have with your parents is false. I'm not saying they don't love you, but you are operating in it is an abusive relationship. They've put conditions on their love, and just so many PMOs are in denial. Some aren't,
Yeah.
they know, but they're just sticking around for whatever their personal reasons are. Like, man, I got to stay for my kids, or I got to stay because of, my wife. And I'm not judging, but in some cases, there are situations uh, where the PMO just wants to go la 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 la, just cover their eyes and pretend that this is all going to go away or resolve itself magically. And yeah, I just wanted to offer a practical breakdown because we live in like Instagram, you know, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, land. Everything has become, you do you. This very like bite-size approach to self-empowerment.
Hmm.
These little quick nuggets of self-empowerment that it's like, but what does this look like practically? What does it look like when I actually call my mom and say, hey, can you meet me, at the house at 2 p.m. and we're gonna, I need to talk to you about something very heavy. you
Hmm.
know I wanted to break down the possible scenarios. So I talk about what I call the confrontation, and this is just, give it another name. I don't care, but it's not an ultimatum. You're not saying, hey, it's my way or the highway. It's just saying, hey, I cannot do this anymore. I can't be a Jehovah's Witness, I can't be a Baptist, or I'm gay, or I don't believe in this, or you're not asking them to change. You're just saying, please, this is me.
I'm going to call it the duel of fates.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Great. You're trying to propose a civil relationship. Like, can we agree to disagree? And if we can't, I have to move forward with my life. This
Yeah.
is, self-preservation. And so I'm just saying, like, most likely, if you've reached this point and they have not been reasonable and they haven't been willing to work with you, if they haven't been willing to concede or show any kind of compromise, they are who they are. Okay,
Yeah.
now it's your responsibility to move forward. So, well, this is what you can expect in a practical way. I had my experience, but generally speaking, from what I've heard from a lot of people, your family, your parents might blow up. They might go away and give you the silent treatment, sort of marinate over the interaction for a few days and then come back like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Maybe you know they try to rally support in the congregation or with their friends, with their friend group, and then
Mhm.
there's casualties within the friend group. They side with your parents or whoever. And like I said, this is not, we talked about, this is not just 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds. You got people who are, like you said, mentally stunted in their 50s and 60s who are
Yeah.
dealing with this shit. My mother was dealing with this with her non-Jehovah's Witness mother, well into my mother being in her late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
She was still dealing with stuff that had never been resolved. And I saw that. I saw what happened to my mother emotionally over the decades of her dynamics with her family, not just her mother, but her family in general. And I just didn't want to repeat those same mistakes. But anyways, you
No,
know,
I think it's ultra important to have.
like the practical, some sort of
Yes.
practical you know uh course that, or tips that you can follow, and sort of just Mr. Potato Head, just kind of piece it together that in a way that works for you.
And I think a lot of people are conflict avoidant, justifiably. And
Understandably,
this
yeah.
is probably one of the biggest conflicts you'll have in your life.
Yeah, I
So
mentioned that, yeah.
so it's like having a voice of people that have been through it and a measured effect, and give yourself credit. You have a degree in psychology. You understand things. You have put in the work. You have lived experience, and so hearing that from someone, I think, has a powerful voice. Um, Gosh, it's like, dude, if you have an opportunity to read this book, you have an ability to be a little bit more prepped and prepared than some of us didn't have the ability to do so because there weren't resources.
Right, exactly. I literally just, thank you for saying that. I literally just wanted to provide a resource. And I even say it in the book, like, take it or leave it, use what works for you, discard what doesn't. But I try to present as many possible scenarios that you could come up against, just so you feel slightly more prepared. I read things, that I thought, huh, that sounds like my mom, or that sounds like my dad. Oh, or these
Yeah.
are these are possible things that, that I could try, or, oh, there's a term for it. It's called gaslighting. And
Mhm.
I didn't write War and Peace. It's not like I didn't write the
Yeah, but
next
I think it's
novel.
interesting. Yes, we do live in an internet age where some of these terms are more apparent, but at the
Yeah,
same time, we grew up in a bubble where we didn't think about them. Like
right,
there wasn't even an aspect of like, "Oh, let me sit with this and really
right,
dive into some research and figure out what this is all about," because it was off limits. You
right,
just kinda hear the surface level talk about what these things are. So I think it's important to know now is like when you're free, dude, if you wanna spend the whole night going down a YouTube deep dive on the history of gaslighting and what it means and where it came from and how it's been used, and like, you can do that now. And I
right,
never did that when I was in, ever, because it
right,
wasn't in
right,
the
exactly,
society's material.
right, exactly. And something I wanted to say about you is that you're going to be extremely effective and a lifeline for people, for your future patients, because you've been there. And this is where I talk about therapy. I mentioned therapy and counseling in the book, that I did go to therapy. I had to go through 5 therapists. It wasn't like I was with them for a long time, but I just kinda shopped around and, but it gave me a lot of insight because there was a few that it was just like deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything about that in itself was shocking. Like, they knew nothing. I'm not expecting you to know, the governing body's names, but, like, they knew nothing about the witnesses, and so it's just they couldn't help me because they didn't have that, what I'm trying to spit out is you have textbook knowledge of this is what a cult is or this is an abusive relationship, but having that lived experience is invaluable,
Yeah.
and,
Well, in my mind, I have a couple things about that. I think
yeah,
you have to find the right therapist for you.
yeah,
There has to be a connection that works. Me personally, I don't think you need to have the lived experience. It's like someone doesn't need to be
sure,
a drug addict to help a drug addict heal. But gosh, if they can relate and things
yeah,
resonate with you and they understand, how much more powerful will that be? I agree
yeah,
with you. I've gone through therapists where they don't know how to deal with me. They don't
right.
understand. So I found it's like they're asking me a ton of just questions like I got the feeling it was like, "Oh, you're gonna be so much more better equipped for the next person."
Right.
It's
Right.
like
It's like you're having to apply salve to your own wounds. It's like you're having to explain things while
yeah,
in real time, while you're dealing with your quote trauma or, whatever happened to you, and I've heard from many witnesses, former witnesses who tried therapy who felt very discouraged because the person had just no clue. And to your point, there are therapists who are effective on their own, by
yeah.
their own merit. They don't have to be ex Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't have to be ex religious, religious trauma or anything like that. They can still be fantastic therapists. But there's such a thing as having that textbook knowledge of what gaslighting is, what narcissism is, what toxic is. But I didn't want to give the reader some kind of bullshitty cheerleading, like, "You can do it," like, you
Yeah.
know, "F this,
No,
F
I
mom."
think
Like, I just want like, this is what you can expect. They might say this, they might behave this way, bring your own car in case things blow up, so you're not stuck at the house. I just really wanted to have some
yeah.
sort of practical list of practical tips and things that they can expect when they're
Well,
trying
I
to.
think it's actually to your credit. I as I read the book, I think you have enough awareness. Like, I've been on pod before saying, like, I'm never gonna be the person that has the live, laugh, love posters in my house, ever.
Exactly.
But at the same
Yeah,
time, I get it.
yeah, yeah.
Like, I understand
Whatever
if
works.
you have to like, the way if you start to learn about how your brain works, our brains are kinda dumb. Like, they're on autopilot, and they're just trying to do what they can to keep
Yeah,
us alive. Even
yeah.
if that means burying intense trauma, I gotta put that away because it's my job as your brain to keep you alive.
Gotta function.
Yeah, and so it's like we're also really visual people as well. Like, our sense of vision is one of our most powerful senses other than smell. And it's like, dude, if we walk by a poster and it says "Live, Laugh, Love," we're gonna think about living and laughing and loving.
Nothing, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We're dumb creatures. So, like, I get it, and I got that sense in your book that you also, like, understand, like, dude, just find your own fucking live, laugh, love.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
I'm not gonna put that out there and gonna be woo woo, but at the same time, this
Yeah,
shit works.
I just wanted to in my best way possible, and, I don't always hit the mark. I'm only human. Um,
An imperfect human, because of Eve's sin. Yeah.
exactly. It's the woman you gave me, Lord.
I wanna touch on a couple of things. So in your book, you touch on a couple thing, thought control, which
Yeah,
is a great call out, a great book, thought crimes.
yeah.
You touch on sexuality and repression, and then you touch on one of my favorite TV shows, Arrested Development. Um, s
Yeah.
so are there some things you can bring up with those 3 wide, massive topics that you wanna address?
Yeah, I mean, just again, so many things. I'm viewing this obviously through the lens of being a former witness, which was highly sexually repressive, but it's not just the witnesses, it's other churches.
Mhm.
You know, and that it's not an attack for anybody listening. This is not to say like, an attack on conservative values or, waiting for marriage or whatever, but I get into that in the book. It's just that, you might have grown up in an environment where I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, but you might have grown up in just a really tightly wound situation, tightly wound family. And that could be, in sexual terms, or maybe you had to appear as though you're one big happy family. Everything's okay. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
So just recon- uh, without, at the risk of sounding cheesy, just reconnecting with yourself. Like, who are you really? Burning down that house. What keep the parts that make sense to you, that you align with, that like it doesn't have to be a wholesale rejection of what mom and dad taught you, but are you really that, do you really share your parents' values about dot dot dash, or have you internalized it so much? Like, my point is, there's things that I agree with my folks on, but when I left, it was like, oh, that's not me. And I talk about that in the book, spotting voices. That was something I had to learn. That was part of my transition. It
Mm.
was like, "Oh, wait, that's something my mother used to say, or that's how my mother feels about something, or that's how my father feels about." This is what I had to do as a witness to live up to the image of who they wanted me to be. This is my parents' house talking. These are my parents' thoughts and feelings. So just I offer different strategies, talking about thought crime, sexual exploration, spotting voices, just figuring out what do you identify with, what makes sense to you, what do you still feel actually, speaks to you, resonates with you. And then because a lot of people don't stop to think about it. Like you said, our brains are dumb, we're on autopilot. So I wanted to have a section where people could literally just let me stop and think about this. How did my parents, what were their thoughts about sex? What were their thoughts about politics, money, religion, whatever the thing was? Because I have to remember the people who are reading it are not all ex Jehovah's Witnesses. So study the house. And clearly, you're in a really shitty situation. That's why you're burning down the house to begin with.
Yeah.
And then, but also, here's this new framework. So after you've tried these different strategies and asked yourself, I have these different prompts, well, your parents are touchy about this, or I notice I can never talk to my folks about this. Just trying to get people to dial in more
Yeah.
and dial in and say, oh, okay, now that I actually stopped and thought about this, and I am not just on autopilot, but I'm really thinking about it, that's more mom. That's more dad. I had to do this for the time. I did what, give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
I had to be that golden child. I know other people were rebelling, but I had to be that person for a time. It served its purpose. I had to do it. And then when I knew I was officially done, or I officially didn't believe in something, now I could start this new framework. I can start to build a life that's personally resonant, that I can actually stand behind after I've burned everything else down. It's not just about hating mom. It's never about hating mom and dad, but it's not just about the past. How am I going to move forward?
Now I know the next book is a book about construction.
Exactly.
Building up the house.
Building up the house. Yeah. Bang it out. That's
Yeah, yeah,
sexual repression right there. Is me.
yeah, you'll find a great title, no doubt. You may have already got one on pod. Um,
So,
so you and then obviously as you navigate through this, so it's like the navigation out, the tools to do that, but then you do touch on multiple topics about, finding your own voice, finding your given family.
yeah.
I think it's really helpful tools like out, to listen to yourself because you weren't allowed to because of some of that arrested development. Um, you touch on a little bit of, which I think is great, moments of yourself, giving yourself a voice in that. Um, can you touch on some of that as we kind of navigate through your book about why it was helpful kind of to add these sections as well?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point of the new framework, and it's not a groundbreaking concept, It's just you tore down this structure, but are you going to stay mired in what went wrong? I really focus on finding ways to not let you want to manage your pain and not let your pain manage you.
Mm.
And so that might look different for different people. Like, is it a creative pursuit that you want to immerse yourself in? That's why I have a whole section on purpose and passion, and so it's a big coaching section,
Yeah.
just to explore what gets you excited, because toxic family is so draining. You're doing everything you can just to survive the moment, survive the fight, survive. Yeah. So within that time, I wanted people to also have a glimmer of hope, so they didn't just think, oh God, this is going to suck. I'm up against a lot. There's possible intense fallout, whether it's coming out that you don't believe you're a Jehovah's Witness who doesn't, you're PMO, or maybe it's, uh, super religious family or a really toxic situations. It's too easy for me on the outside to go, well, just leave. It's like telling abusive women, well, women who are abused, have abusive husbands, why don't you just leave? They've been worn down. So with
Yeah.
toxic family, you've been worn down for so long, you've had to put your wants and needs, and any playfulness, anything that excites you, anything that, getting it, it's like I say, it's cheesy, getting in touch with yourself, that's been on the back burner. So I
Yeah.
wanted to have sections of the book where people could really stop and think, shit, what do I want? And you don't have to have a big epiphany. That's not the point. It's just like, hey, just explore, you know, and try to rebuild. And I have that portion of the book under construction. You're going to figure things out as you go along.
I think one of the big parts of your book too is the sense I got was you love gratitude journals.
My fuck that gratitude journal. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, that was huge for me. I'll be honest, I didn't create this. Funny you say that, the fuck that gratitude journal. That's what I call it. Uh, yeah, I mean, that's just one of those things. I wanted to talk about gratitude in a way that didn't make you want to just like claw your eyes out, because we hear
Sure.
that word so much, gratitude, you
Yeah.
just um, it's true. You want to practice gratitude, but it's one of those self-help phrases that if you hear it a million times, it just rings hollow.
Mhm.
The fact is, and I think I said this in the book, that you can be grateful that you have food in the fridge, but still be lonely. You can be grateful, that you don't, your home is not being bombed, but you can still hate your job.
Sure.
You're only human. But also too, if you think coaching is cheesy, or if you think, dreaming and passion and purpose is all that's kind of bullshitty, well then do what I did. Create your fuck that gratitude journal, meaning take out a piece of paper and a Sharpie, which is literally what I did. And I literally just crazy person style, just with my Sharpie, said, if I wasn't free, if I didn't take the steps that I had taken to leave, I'd still be sitting at the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah.
Fuck that. I'd still be doing this. Fuck that. I'd still be going out in service. Fuck that. I'd still have to pretend in my head, pretending in perpetuity to be something that you're not, if you're
Yeah.
constantly trying to live up to your parents' expectations.
I agree.
Or your family's expectations, or playing the game, doing the dance. It's just not sustainable, whether you're a former Jehovah's Witness or not. You just,
I think
you got to
the
find that peace.
I think the ultimate crime is that we could potentially live someone else's life our entire life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's you have to wake up and go like, I can't do this anymore. I have to finally live my life, even if I don't know how to do it. And it's scary and it's risky, but you got to
Very
do it.
exactly. I'm glad you said that, because that all, like you said, it's scary because you don't have all the answers, but that's okay.
Yep.
You and I'm speaking just to you specifically, Derek.
Yeah.
We always had the answers.
Yeah.
And I think that's what scares our parents, and it's what scares a lot of people, even people who are awake, who might be PMO. Well, what next? What happens next? but it's taking that radical step of chopping off the limb, burning down the house. You got to do it or else you'll never know.
Yeah.
You'll always wonder. Like you said, you'll always be living someone else's life. Doesn't mean you're going to get it right every time, doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. That's not the point. It's just your life. It's your life to fuck up. Damn it,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you want to fuck up your life, you have that right and that
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah. And well, it's like for me personally, it's like at least I know I tried.
Exactly.
I'll never have a mindset of like, gosh, I never tried.
Right.
And
Right.
if that's the only regret, it's like, dude, I can live with that. It's totally
Exactly.
fine. Like
That's very reasonable.
I lived a life just trying things and trying new experiences, and there's no regrets, but it was mine to do. Um, as we close out, I know one of the things you mentioned in your book, it's so simple, but you had stated just find your peace, and we've kind of been navigating around that thought as we close out. Um, why do you think it's so important to have that mindset and to include that in the book?
Peace, like happiness, it's not some static state where it's just like, I found happiness or everything's perfect now. But you will forever be, just like what we were saying, you will forever be living someone else's life. You're going to be in a constant state of resentment, and it's not healthy. And so, like you said, even if you make mistakes, at least you can have peace knowing, like, this was my life. I at least lived it on my terms. I'm being guided from a place of authenticity. It doesn't mean I'm not going to screw up.
Yeah,
Just being at peace with yourself, finding closure. Like, I think I even said this in the book. What if, of course, we want peace with the other person. We wish things were different. Nobody wants this.
yeah,
Nobody wants this. But what would it be like? Here's a mind bender for you. What if you were okay with yourself? I think there's this constant, not race, that's not the word, but we've been living our lives seeking the approval of others, whether that was our parents or the pastor or whoever it was in our family. We've been trying to make this happen. It's not going to happen. What if you were just okay with yourself?
yeah,
And
exactly.
at peace with yourself. I think that's an incredibly it was strange. I'm not going to act like it's not strange. It's strange, but it's liberating when it finally hits you of like, you know what? I don't know what's up with you. That's a you problem, but I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
and
know?
it's like my version of peace is mine. I found it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
something really, I don't know, comforting if you can finally get there, even if you can hold on to it just for a moment. It's like we were never given the opportunity to even have it for a moment, because of the constant grind. But
Right.
Bethany, I'm really grateful that we got to spend some time together. I'm grateful
Same,
that
man.
you're in this world and you made this book and you're putting yourself out there, and just people find your voice, online and in your written word. So thank you so much. We talk about gratitude. You're in my gratitude journal. Thank you so much.
Hope not the fuck that gratitude. Thanks, man. It,
um,
it was it was
yeah,
really great chatting with you, and thank you for the work you're doing too as well. I really appreciate it. Thanks for
yeah,
having me on.
yeah. Thanks again. Thanks so much for everyone that's listening. As we close out, some people might not know where to find you, and kind of where they can find your literature. So if you want to put that out there, that would be great.
Yeah, you can go to my website, Bethany Leger, BethanyLeger.com. My books are on there. Also, a link to my website, a link to my YouTube, Stop the Shunning. And I put out videos at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. But yeah, you can find links to Physically and Mentally Out and Burning Down the House on my website. Yeah.
Are there audiobooks?
Not yet, in the works.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know about hearing my voice on tape, but I said on tape. I swear to God, I live in 93.
That is a sign. Yeah.
Back. I
When
wanna go
someone
back.
says on tape, that is definitely a sign.
Oh,
Well, I look forward to hearing that on my video cassette player. Um, so, or my audio cassette player. So thank you so much. Um,
thanks, man.
yeah, it's and obviously people know where I'm at. My name is Derek. I'm the host of the Culture Pod, and Trinity is a co-host. He's often with me, but not today. And you can find us, TikTok, Instagram, all the socials. It's cult.ture.pod. And thank you for everyone. I always say time is so precious, but I also think long form conversations are. We live in a very bite-sized world. So for those that were along with us through this conversation, thank you so much. I know you're probably vacuuming or falling asleep. Hopefully not while you're driving, but thank you so much, everyone, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thank you for joining us on this journey in this era. If you found today's episode valuable, please share it with someone who might need it. Check the podcast description for our socials and other information.
Please consider supporting us at Patreon at patreon.com/culturepod. If you'd like to tell your story, please contact us at cult.ture.pod@gmail.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay free.